All right, welcome everyone to our December Academy chat. We're focusing on what's happened throughout the year with our TA grant awardees. So if you're not here to hear about the technical assistant grants and talk about strategic planning, um, surprise. But welcome. We're excited to have this conversation. Thank you all for coming on the 19th of December, so close to, I think, a lot of us leaving for some rest and relaxation or maybe some deep work. But in case not everyone's aware, I think there are a few new faces. The Academy Chat series is something that was started by Amanda Fuller, who was on the call. I think she'll be back. She's in transit and is joining us via phone. But she started this series when she was president of NAAS to bring academies together to talk about the wonky things that go on, within the boards, the discussions that you're having, sort of as a place for us to have these cross-state conversations that are so important for us to get better at what we do, to build connection with each other, and just to build this community as a whole. And I really think this conversation has grown a lot over the past few years that I've been helping coordinate it, that Amanda has grown it, and then Donna and others on the board that are here in this room have really supported it. And also thanks to all of you attendees. And, I see a few here that have perfect attendance over the past few months. So I'm really happy that you continue joining us, and hopefully you learn as much as I've learned. And I think all of us that are leaders at NAAS have been learning from you. So let's do a quick round. Let's spend 3 minutes, 4 minutes doing a round of intros since we only have about 12 people in the room. I'm going to do popcorn style and throw it over to Philip since he has his mute off. And then Philip, if you could pass it on from there.
Okay, hello. My name is Philip Winchell. I'm the archivist of the National Association of Academies of Science and also a member of the Ohio Academy of Science. I live here in Dayton, Ohio, and it is very cold. With that, I'll pass it off to Jamie. Hopefully, it's warmer there.
Yes, I'm sure it is. I'm in North Louisiana. I am a professor and director of biological sciences at Louisiana Tech University and president-elect for the Louisiana Academy of Sciences. I will pass it to Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Forzak. I'm the executive director of the Connecticut Academy of Science and Engineering. I'm one of the recipients of the strategic planning grants. I don't know what else I need to add. It's raining here. We're doing weather. It's raining here. It's warm. It actually feels like Seattle. So I'll pass it on to Nat.
All right. How is everybody? Happy Friday. I'm Nat Draper. I'm from the Virginia Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. I'm the executive director, and I'm excited to learn about this opportunity. I don't think we've been funded from this opportunity in the past. And I definitely could use some direction. Also, I wanted to wish everyone a happy holiday. My wife is very happy because my two daughters are back from graduate school and college. So she is smiling ear to ear.
Jean, can you go next?
You're on mute, Jean.
I sent him an ask to unmute notification. I can't just do it for you. While you're working on that, we're going to hop to Vinay.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Vinay Raj. I'm the president of the Arkansas Academy of Science. I'm also an associate professor in the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff in the departments of biology and computer science. And so we are also a recipient of the strategic planning grant. I'm very grateful for that, and it's been quite exciting. And we are hopefully going to implement it in the next few years, and hopefully, if there is a time, like we can get back to you on what happened and how effective it has been.
Looks like Jean's off mute. We can hop back to you.
This better? Okay. I'm Gene Stuffle. I'm with the Idaho Academy of Science and Engineering. I'm retired electrical engineering faculty from Idaho State University. We're having trouble even getting people to show up to meetings. We need to do some planning to figure out if we're going to continue to exist or not, to be honest about it. So that's why I'm here. Our president insisted that I show up because he can't. So here I am.
Jean, where are you in Idaho?
Pocatello.
Okay.
It's sprinkling a little bit here. The temperature is about 53 degrees, and we've had snow once for about an inch a couple weeks ago, and a little bit of rain, which is unusual for us. Last couple days we had some hurricane force winds, believe it or not, here in the valley in the Snake River Valley, and blew over a bunch of trees and caused a lot of damage, but no water damage, fortunately. But that storm that came in through Washington and Oregon kind of hit us next, and now my family's back in the Midwest, Indiana. They're starting to get some effects of it also. So
yeah.
I'm not very talkative, so I'm doing a lot more than I normally do. So I'll pass it on now to who wants to be next. Deb, maybe?
Unmute. Hello, everyone. My name is Deb Thrall. I am the current president of the New Mexico Academy of Science. I just got elected in, and I will be serving for the next year. I'm here to listen, to hear what's going on with all of you folks. David Schultz was our president last year, and he highly recommended I sit in on these meetings. I was a university educator. I'm now retired. My specialty was radioactive waste management, of course, coming from New Mexico. That makes perfect sense. And so in terms of weather, it's about 65 degrees outside and sunny with no wind. And unfortunately, I cannot be playing golf today with my girlfriends. I said I have got to be in to hear what's going on for the Academy of Science. I'm looking forward to learning from all of you, and we'll be sitting in and probably will be on mute, kind of like Jean. I want to learn is what I want to do. So thanks, and happy holidays, everyone. Oh, and Maureen.
Hi, I am Maureen Zieber. I am the director of the Iron Hill Museum and Science Center, which is owned and operated by the Delaware Academy of Science. So I am one of 3 staff members that deals with the museum here that we have. It's a natural history museum. So we have a lot of natural history topics. You name it, we talk a little bit about it. My specialty is in archaeology and anthropology, so I tend to gravitate towards that stuff. But we do talk about nature in general. And since this is a trend, it's in Newark, Delaware, which is on the other side of the University of Delaware campus. It's like really like 3 miles away from where we are. It is 44 degrees, feels like 30 degrees, and outrageously strong wind right now. But the sun is shining for right now. It wasn't great this morning, but it's a lot sunnier now at this point. All right, so I'm going to pass it on to, let's see.
I think Laura is our last that is not joining on mobile. Sorry for interrupting, Maureen.
There you go. No, you're good. So we'll go to Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Corey. I'm from the Illinois State Academy of Science. I'm currently serving as treasurer, but our president resigned last week, and I had agreed in our last council meeting to stand for election to president-elect. So I got bumped up a level, and I will most likely take over as president after our annual meeting. I'm in biology, but I'm also currently engaged in hostage negotiations with a greyhound who feels that now is the time for walking. So I'm hoping that she'll come back inside, because speaking with our weather, it is clear outside, but it is quite cool. And if you think about a greyhound, you don't really have a doggy door for a greyhound. You just have a door. So when she comes back inside, I'll go off screen so I can go upstairs to my regular office. And we have not received one of these grants. We are interested in them. possibly for the series of events that led to our president resigning, or at least related to it. So, and here comes the Greyhound.
Well, if you need to step away, it's no worries, Laura. Thank you.
I'm just going to turn off my screen so everybody else doesn't get seasick.
Perfect.
Okay.
Donna, did you introduce yourself? I realized that we may not have
yeah.
circled back to you, even though we talked informally at the beginning.
That's right. So I'm Donna Girardi. I'm the current president of NAAS. Hail from great state of Washington, where I was the executive director of the Washington State Academy of Sciences for 7.5 years. Moving into other roles now, but my mantra these days is science stays where the action is, and so I'm really glad that you're all here.
Yeah, and weather report from Washington, right? It's
Oh,
not raining.
It's not raining at the moment. We're in between atmospheric rivers at the moment. Yeah.
I really like the state updates that we're getting. I know what's happening across the country now. It's very interesting. We had 45-mile-an-hour wind here yesterday in Missouri, which is shockingly aggressive wind, I feel like, for this region. And now it is still about 5-mile-an-hour wind, which is more what I would expect. But I'm located in central Missouri. I don't think I said that earlier. And before I hand it off to our TA grant recipients for 2025 to talk a little bit about their experience, a little bit like about things they learned, things that, maybe could have gone better, and then open to discussion, I wanted to tell you all just a little more about the grants themselves, the intention of them, and how they fit in with what NAAS is doing as a whole. So we received late 2024 a grant from the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation to support NAAS in building capacity among our members and also just among academies in general. So increasing our membership was one of the parts of that particular grant. The TA grant portion of that grant was specifically to do what some of you have already mentioned on the call, is to help troubleshoot if there are operational challenges, thinking through the next 3 to 5 years for academies at whatever level that academy is at. But we're hoping really to target academies that are 75,000 budget and below as sort of our target audience for these. But if others apply that have larger budgets or are looking at doing bigger projects, are interested in things that are outside of our scope, we also look at those applications. And we're going to award 6 TA grants in 2026. So we have quite a few openings and are excited to work with a variety of states. I actually think the learning from my side of things so far this year is that having states that look quite different, that operate quite differently, is going to be a strength of this program, especially as we move forward with a cohort model, sharing between states that are experiencing very different things among the strategic planning processes would be a really big strength, I think, of the state level academies of science. But I don't want to keep talking. I want to, without further ado, Jamie, since you are sitting next to me in the Zoom room, would you mind going first and sharing a little bit about what's happening in Louisiana?
Yeah, I'll try to cover everything you want me to, but if I miss, just ask. So the Louisiana Academy of Sciences, we are actually celebrating our 100th year, our centennial year this spring. So big year for us. So this was really kind of perfectly planned or timed for us because we've got a big celebration planned and we really want to move the Academy forward. We are, like I would guess most of you, just a group of volunteers who are passionate about science. So when Jean, I think, mentioned that it's hard to get people to show up, we've kind of had the same people sitting on our board for a number of years, just rotating positions on the board. It's hard to get new membership and promote what it is we do and engage people in it and make them excited because everybody's doing so much already. And it can sometimes feel like just one more thing to do. So for us, having the strategic planning grant, it was like a great opportunity for us to sort of step back and think about who we are and what we do. So we met with Rachel, was our appointed planner. And so our current president, so I'm the president-elect, which means I will serve as president in 2 years. John Doucette is our current president. And then Gerard Blanchard was our former president. So the 3 of us met with Rachel to talk about our goals and the academy. We then organized a visit. She came, we met in Alexandria, Louisiana, which is kind of middle of the state. So for all of us coming from across the state, it's kind of a central location. And I will say one of the best things, well, there were a couple of really great things about that, but one great thing was just bringing about oh gosh, there might be close to 20 of us on that sounds like a lot. Maybe there's 15. I don't know. I'd have to look at a roster. Anyway, brought the whole sort of board together for a day and a half. So that meant we weren't organizing a conference, we weren't watching our students. It was just us having a chance to visit with each other and talk about the academy and talk about our goals. So one great thing was just getting people together in a room, going to dinner together, having drinks together. And just being together, that's huge. And we just don't do that enough because there's no way to replicate that on a Zoom call. And we all know that. So that's one huge advantage. There was an excuse to come together. And then Rachel asked us just really good questions about who we are and what we do. And you think that's really obvious. We should know, but we really don't know. And we don't all say the same thing when asked. So pushing us to come up with our identity and then how do we share that identity with other people so that we can draw people in. What we do is really important. It's really important for the students in the state. I would guess a lot of you also know financial hardship at your university. Traveling to a conference is really expensive. What our state academies can do is offer students a chance to present in a way that's very affordable for everybody, right? So we have shared values and goals and know that it's important, but how do we articulate that to other people? So we spent a lot of time talking through that. And then actually had a plan for us. And so now we're in the execution stage, which is a little bit harder to organize and manage. So I'll let you know how that goes. Like ask me in another year to come back and let you know if we did what we wanted to do. But we have been sending out a pretty regular newsletter update to folks in the academy, which was one of the things we wanted to do. We've redone a website. We've got to try to get on social media, but we have a list of tasks now and it's super organized with a breakdown of each big task into smaller tasks so we can feel like we're achieving along the way. So I don't know, have I covered all the things I should cover as an overview for our experience just to get us started?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's really helpful. I'm curious if there's one big learning that sticks out for you. You said Rachel asked a lot of good sort of, diving deep questions. Like what was one of the things that surprised you that you learned in that process?
I think for us, it was the question we struggled with the most was who is this for? And who do we want to engage? Because some people thought like we need everybody. We need to get LSU on board, right? They're the state's big flagship school. Do we need to get LSU on board? Are we for LSU? Like, is that who we want to appeal to? And what does it benefit the academy just to have a big flagship school participate and really grapple with wanting a big name, but is that really what we need to do to be successful? And really reflecting on who we are, what we do, why it matters, and maybe we don't have to be everything for everyone, right? And so that sort of who's your audience piece, I think that was good for us to confront because if we're not all on the same page with who our audience is, there's no way we're delivering the same message and we don't have the same actual goals and priorities if someone's out there trying to get these people and begging them to participate rather than focusing on those people who really do want to engage. So for me, that was a really big sort of learning moment, thinking we all thought the same, but then realizing maybe we don't and we got to get on the same page.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Jamie. Thank you for sharing. And I
Yeah.
think that's a great overview. I think it really gets us kicked off well. I'm going to hand the mic over to Jeff, or the proverbial mic. And please share a little bit about your experience too.
Yep, thanks. Connecticut Academy of Science and Engineering case is in its 50th year. And so a good time for us to think about what we're doing too. We are modeled after the national academies, and so members are elected. And due to that, much of our membership is either from Yale or UConn. So we do represent our flagship, state flagship universities. Another good reason that this came along, and so we are also on the larger side of the academies. Our budget is closer to $300,000 a year. And that's actually on the low side for what it's historically been over the last 20 years, I'd say. And desire to grow it back. And one of the reasons this was a good time for us to do strategic planning was that we have gone through a lot of transition. So I've been executive director for a year now. And so when this grant opportunity came out, it had only been a couple months. But even beyond that, we're like probably like many of you, we have 2-year cycles for our officers. But because of a resignation, our officers are now on essentially a 3.5-year cycle. So we will actually have some stability and long-term commitment among that officer corps. And so we thought that was a good reason to get going on this. I also have experience with strategic planning, but was really looking forward to having a facilitator rather than doing it myself so that I could make sure I was engaged in the process and not running the process. And so that was great to have Rachel available and helping. Let's see. Lessons learned. One is we probably needed to think about our commitment to the process a little better. We had a really good working session, but I think we hadn't really built in the fact of what would have needed to continue it. We have a lot of initiatives already going on. There's strong areas of desire to broaden our membership, and so we've worked really hard over the summer to restructure this year's election so that we'll be more open to non-R1 university membership. And then other activities, and of course, just trying to learn how to run an organization took a lot of time. And so one thing we haven't really done well is follow up on what we've done and really match up. I think one of the other things Hal and I learned was we kind of probably let the group be a little too open in its brainstorming and down selection criteria. And one of the things that happened is we came up with ideas that weren't things we were working on, right? And so really not in a position to kind of continue starting stuff new when we're not really successfully executing on all the things we're working on. And so, as an example, many of the things that are on my annual goal didn't show up in the strategic planning process. The broadening membership didn't show up in the strategic planning process. And so one thing we need to do is kind of go back and match up a little bit, the realities of what we're being asked to work on and how that's structured and the new ideas that came up and really blend those back together. We haven't had an opportunity to do that yet, though we have now scheduled something for the end of January, so we will get back to it.
Same question to you, Jeff, that I asked Jamie, a little bit of a different version. Was there anything that really surprised you about either the in-person session, the process in general, anything you learned about the Connecticut Academy through this process?
Yeah, I think and not totally a surprise, but kind of the level of how important it was, the continued, what's the right word, continued feedback that the Academy feels from its downsizing is, how that impacts the leadership's decisions. So our leadership structure, right? I don't act as a CEO, I act as a COO, right? Our council is really tasked with governing the organization. Now, that doesn't mean I don't work like a CEO because they don't work that hard. But officially they're the ones running the organization. And there was certainly a lot of input and direction that had to do with the fact that we had some significantly lean years. And those lean years started before COVID, but certainly COVID had continued to drive them and make them harder to get out of. And so the amount of kind of direction that some people wanted us to take based on that, I think, was a surprise.
Thank you. That was super helpful overview. And I appreciate the attention to calling out things that are difficult and, continuing to be a challenge. I think that's equally important in this conversation. So hopefully we can get into some of that too in the Q&A. But Vinay, mic's all yours.
Okay. So again, I'm from the Arkansas Academy of Sciences. I'm the president, and so we received the grant, and Haley Thompson was our planner, and we had a great time. So first, Haley helped us a lot right from the beginning. So we are very grateful for that. She was very super planned, very well organized, and for our grant. I was the primary contact person. There were a couple of others in our board who were also interested in participating, but due to time constraints, like I was the main go-to between NAAS and our academy. And the reason I bring that up is it has been a challenge as well with my regular work schedules and all that. But thanks a lot to Haley, who she pulled me on track, and there were many times she followed up, and so it was great to work with her. So that's the first thing. In terms of how the grant process worked, I think pretty much Jamie and Jeff, they covered the broad aspects, like overall how it is organized. It was pretty much the same. The only slight differences were again, our organization is more than 100 years old. But the way it was run for a long time, I think somebody said it was the same officers who were rotating back and forth, and then with extended periods of time. And then the way I got into this organization is there was a meeting was one of the annual meetings I attended. And they just asked for some volunteers, and they said oh, we are just a bunch of old folks who are running this organization. We want some new blood. So I just raised my hand, and then the next year, the organization, we had a meeting at our university. So that's how I got involved. So some of the things we mainly, at least from my perspective and from the key people in my board, we were mainly targeting improving the membership. That's the first thing. And then, and also we wanted to do something different than what we have in our state. So we have a larger organization, the Arkansas INBRE, the INBRE. So this is an NIH funded organization. So they have it's a big organization. So they have their meetings in the fall, and there's a big draw, and so a lot of participation from undergrads and faculty in that conference. So, but our meetings are always in the spring, in the first week of April, first or second week of April, depending on Easter. So we wanted to have something unique in the spring, so that it'll be like a complement to what they are doing in the year, and we can have our own setup. So initially, the way we had the meeting only for a day. The reason was it was tough to organize, because we are all of us are volunteers, and we are spread across different universities in the entire state. And there was quite a bit of polling to get to one place, and not all of them showed up. We had I think 10 or 11 people signed up, but then we had a couple of people who dropped out. And before our meeting, many of them are, to be honest, many of them were really skeptical about what we were going to achieve. So because they thought like, okay, it's just going to be just a regular meeting and people are going to talk for like, okay, this is what you should do for 3 or 4 hours and be done. And even personally, I was surprised that it would take the whole day. Like, because then one of the things, this is something you might want to keep in mind. We planned for like our regular meeting combined with this strategic plan meeting. So Haley was saying like we need like I need at least like 5-6 hours, and so I was thinking why would she need so many hours? Like I had other issues in my regular meeting planned, and then like but she was very insistent that I need those 5-6 hours. So I was on the clock, like I was constantly looking at my watch, and I kept my meeting like within the first 40 minutes, and then I let the flow to her. But it was super useful, and we never knew how the time went. The entire 5-6 hours just went off like a few minutes, and we were constantly working. In fact, like we had a working lunch. We didn't go out and do anything for fun or anything. We just got some box lunches, and it's like we were getting paid millions of dollars to do this. Um, so in terms of learning, the few things that I would strongly recommend is one of the things we didn't have is like we didn't have a clear membership list. So even before this would help, whether you receive a grant or not, I think if you have a very good a clear membership list, that would help you in all your communications. One of the things in that membership list as well is like we collected our membership based on the meetings. And many times when people register for the memberships, it's always the like the administrative assistant who registers. So we didn't have like individual emails and all that. And some people they purposefully they didn't give the right emails. So we had a tough time getting the membership list organized. So that's something I would strongly recommend getting it cleared up in the first place. The other thing we notice is that like part of the strategic grant process is there is interviewing with the stakeholders. So initially what I did is like I just sent out a general announcement saying that, to everyone, please participate in the interview, and so nobody responded. So, so then I personally sent out an email. For one or two people, I called them and I told them this is going to be really important. So please be prepared to do some extra work. And as a president or the president-elect, so you will have to share more burden in terms of contacting your own board members and doing a little bit of selling. But once they come to the meeting, then after that, like at the end of the meeting, I had like 3 or 4 people immediately after the meeting. They were saying, "Oh, this was so super useful." Like, so that is something like they are not prepared for in the first place. That's something you will need to educate them. At the meeting, one thing we could have benefited from is like if we had like an external note taker. Okay, maybe if it could be an administrative assistant from your own organization, or somebody else, maybe like a grad student who can take like some extra notes on which are the key themes that are being discussed. So that would be super useful, because that 5-6 hours, like I said, it just went off in a whiff, and there were so many ideas and there were so many discussions. It's tough to capture all that. So an extra pair of ears would be very helpful. And then one of the other things, like I know, like somebody said, like they had 1.5 days. In our case, it would have been very difficult. Even to get people on one day was tough. But maybe like a one day in person, and then maybe like a half a day or like 2 or 3 hours, maybe the next day or in the following week. If you had a meeting, that would be helpful. The reason being is that, see, we discussed a number of ideas, and then there were like a lot of themes that were important. But within those themes, there were a lot of people like, for example, including me, like I was passionate about some of the things which I definitely wanted to implement before my term is over. And but then there is some pushback even within the board in terms of how we are going to implement it. So they wanted to implement it at like a slower pace, whereas I wanted to get it done before the year ends and my term was over. So those were things like, if we had like a follow-up meeting where we could have pitched in, like we could say like, okay, so you want this done within this year. So what is your rationale for that? We could have probably done that and got like a vote on something like that. That would have been helpful as that. Some more discussions on that would have been helpful. I think I talked quite a bit. Is
No, it's
there
great.
anything else I didn't cover?
I can't think of anything offhand. I mean, we can definitely have a follow-up meeting. To talk about those things. So that's good to know. I mean, I'm also learning how best to, work. Everybody's an individual. Every organization is an individual. So I think this is continued learning for NAAS and for all of you, hopefully. I guess Vinay, to,
That's the
bookmark
same
this
question.
and end with the same thing. What was the most surprising for you that you learned throughout the day?
The
I
most
have a
surprising
list.
thing was the first is like the level of engagement. That was a bit surprising. Like once they came on board and once they were there in person, the atmosphere itself changed quite a bit. So I would again strongly recommend in-person meeting at least for one day. And one important lesson we realized is that we should stand out as have our individual identity, or we should have our own brand, especially when you have like a big competition. I wouldn't say, yeah, in a way it is a competition, even though we are all doing the same kind of work. Especially when you have a big competitor like the Arkansas Embry, where they have millions of dollars in at hand, and they can give a lot of prize money and things like that.
Well, if anyone has any questions from the audience, or if the grantees want to ask each other questions, I think now's the best time for that. And Donna, I know you always have interesting questions, so I don't want to take over. I want to cede the floor to all of you.
I just have one comment, not a question. I really liked your incorporation of, or thinking about incorporating a graduate student or some younger person in the process, in whatever role makes sense, because I really think it's important for them to have exposure at that point in their education to how to think like this and how to work in groups, how to work through things together as adults. So I just think that's a really interesting take on it.
Thank you. And one other thing I missed, like once you receive the grant, there is an opportunity for somebody from your board. It could be either you or somebody else to attend the NAAS the conference. That was a great time. I absolutely enjoyed it. And the best part in that conference is that you get to meet your state legislatures. And there is a time like you sit at the same table with the legislators. And so I got all their cards, and then there are a couple of people who I met later. I still have their contacts, and so I can follow up with them on of areas of the interest to me as well as our board. So that's a very valuable opportunity. Please don't miss it.
I was going to say, feel free to ask if you have logistical questions about grants or questions just about the states or structures of the different academies that went through it this year, any of those or other categories. Laura?
Yeah, so I have a question, and this is a little bit of a discussion question, a little bit of, one thing that I think many states probably deal with is geography. Well, every state obviously deals with geography, but from the perspective of, in Illinois, our state academy is almost exclusively downstate. And if you're familiar with Illinois, some people will say downstate starts at I-80, and then everything south of that is downstate. And really, it starts at Champaign. And as a state academy, we tend to be below. So again, our flagship doesn't participate. We have very little participation from Chicago. But from the perspective of being able to host an annual meeting with around 250 to 300 undergraduates, that's kind of our capacity. So while we'd like to see kind of a broader participation, I think we'd be a little bit worried about getting, it would change the tone of the meeting. It would change people's capacity to host the meeting. Too much if we grow, but thinking about strengthening and sustaining rather than explosive growth. And I don't remember who was talking about this now. I'm looking at my squares. I don't think it was, I don't think it was Vinay. I think it was someone else was talking about like what actually constitutes success, a successful decision about improving participation. Jamie, it was you, Jamie. Sorry. Talking about, I can tell if you're from northern Louisiana, that's obviously away from New Orleans. So how do you navigate that in your own state? And, sort of how that conversation went in terms of we're not necessarily going to, we don't want, but it would very much change the tone of the academy if every school in the state participated.
Yeah. So that was a big conversation for us are we growing just to grow and have a lot of people here, or do we need to grow the right way? And so, yeah, our state, so where I am is about as far north as you can get in Louisiana, and Nichols might be our furthest southern school. It's over 5-hour drive. So we, as a state academy, we tend to meet in the middle, which helps geographically, and we do pull from the smaller schools. I think it comes back to identity. So that was really the big part of the conversation is, again, it seemed obvious who you are, but maybe it's not so obvious who you really are and who you want to be. And so that for us was really helpful to have someone force us to think about that piece of identity. And then if you identify this is who we are and this is who we serve, then it's okay that you're not reaching everybody. And if you become so popular and of interest to other people, maybe I'm not familiar with how big Illinois is, how, what the drive is in all directions. Maybe you need regional chapters. And we talked a little bit about doing things regionally within Louisiana, but it's a bandwidth problem. So if I do this in North Louisiana, we have 3 universities just within 40 miles of each other. Would we actually get enough people together to make it a good use of time? And so we haven't really settled on that approach yet, but that was one thing we did think about that might be helpful in your case also. But yeah, I think identifying who you really want to be, and then you don't have to be everything to everybody. That was a hard thing for some people to accept. I don't know if I answered your question, Laura.
You did. And Illinois is a surprisingly long state, given that it's a Midwestern state. And there's also no clear way to get completely from north to south, but it would be about like if we incorporated people from Chicago, so I'm west of Springfield, Illinois, which is north, not anywhere near Chicago and not anywhere near St. Louis. Seriously, if you Google Forgotonia, it was a thing. It was a secession movement. Not kidding. But like in that range of space, that's still, some people are traveling 4 or 5 hours to get to the meeting. And that definitely changes the calculus. So for a lot of Chicago schools, there's so many opportunities for them to participate in and we can never, there's so many national meetings that are there. So if it's cheaper to go to take your students to a national meeting, we can't compete. And that is what it is. So.
And I'll just add that having someone external lead that conversation probably also makes a big difference, because if I had just started that, they'd think I was just being, rude to other schools, right? But somebody outside really asking these questions can help a group have a conversation that the internal people cannot have, raising questions like that, if that makes sense.
Nat, you can go ahead.
All right. Great information. Thank you so much, everyone. I was taking notes on Louisiana, Connecticut, Arkansas, all of it. Thank you so much. One thing, Haley, and this might be a kind of conversation for offline with you individually or someone else, but we have a budget that's a little bit larger than 75,000, but we still have very unique problems. And we did a strategic plan. I've only been here a year and a half, so I joined VASM in July of 2024. And so we did a strategic plan in 2022, and it's supposed to be for 2023 to 2028, a 5-year strategic plan. But we have all new leadership, a new president, and before July 1st, we really had the same structure. It sounds like some of these other states. Our president was there for 6 years. He really was running the show by himself, and has stepped down. He's still helping, and Donna knows him very well. Jim is just a class act, but there's lots of new ideas, and we are on a string. Even though our budget's like 300,000, we are on a string budget. I'm not full time, and I'm kind of like being pulled in so many different directions now that I don't know if I can continue at the job that I'm doing, even though we're doing, I think, really great things. So we definitely, I think, need to relook at our strategic plan, and it sounds like these other states have had really good guidance and really got their board to really think things through. And prioritize what's really important. And I think that's one of the things we're not doing very well now. None of my board members are on the call, but I do I do think some of them would agree with me. But so anyway, I guess my question is, would we be even considered, even though we have a budget that's higher than 75,000, but really do have strategic problems that I think are probably other states are having too, in my opinion.
Yeah. Donna, before I defer to you, you would definitely be eligible. It's just a preference toward folks that have budgets lower than 75,000. So let's say we have, 10 or 12 applicants. We have a scoring criteria. That's one of them. And we have others that are higher priority than the budget preference. But I was mentioning that because I do think the strategic planning process differs a lot depending on whether you have staff or if it's a process where it's just board driven. The data collection and the type of conversations that we need to have are very different. So I wanted to start with that, but thank you for the clarification, Nat. And yes, you all are definitely welcome, more than welcome to apply. Donna?
Thank you for all the comments so far. I'm learning a lot. Just a couple of observations. One is, I like to think about strategic plans, not as strategic plans, but as more strategic directions, because what you don't want is for something that's set in stone a few years ago to be set in stone. And rather, you need flexibility to adapt to circumstances that are occurring around you. So it's just one idea for all of you just to think about. And even in the language you use is strategic directions versus a plan. Because the plans sometimes suggest that it has to be fully executed with high fidelity in order to be successful. But then if you miss an opportunity because something happens, like leadership changes or whatever, you don't necessarily want to do that. And then I have a question for you, all of you, in terms of what is your structural model in terms of members? Is it individual members? Is it institutional members? Because I'm hearing in several states about there being a tight association with one or more universities. And so what is the real rate limiting factor within the state? Just like to know a little bit more about that.
So I can start. We are individual members in Louisiana. but we come from very like just a handful of universities, and so I think it's within the university that an individual promotes it with other individuals.
Mhm.
We talked about institutional membership or like corporate membership, but that's more a way to just have, I think, it didn't seem like it would actually mean anything to do that for us. So I think it makes sense for the individual membership. In our case, it works well that way. It was thinking about how do we have greater representation from more of the institutions within the state. Because if you could just get one at a school, you might be able to, find more individuals.
Mhm.
But yeah, we just represent a small number of schools. I think that's what I was getting at with my points. But
Okay.
Ours is also the same. It's a bunch of universities, and the members are our members are mainly the people who would probably attend the annual meeting. And so that is something we also talked about in our discussions. We should restructure it a little bit in the sense that people who are coming to the meeting, they get like some kind of benefit in the membership because of their membership. So right now it is not the case, and the people who come to the meetings, they just, if they're on their own, if they're interested in the membership for some other reason, for let's say, for example, they want to have that affiliation for whatever purposes, for their jobs or for like if they, for the students, if for on their resume, then they sign up for that. But that is something we need to change in the sense that to offer more activities so that they can benefit from the membership. But that's how our structure is right now.
Mhm. Okay.
And we're also member-based. And one of the struggles we have is as with the national societies, is making sure that we're broadly representing the science, engineering, and medical professional talent in Connecticut. The criteria look very academic, and especially our Yale colleagues have spent a whole career creating CVs and background information to highlight the extensive accomplishments they've made in their career. And so it makes them easy candidates for membership. And so that's, one of our goals in broadening is making sure we're take into account the different criteria that go into being a exemplary scientist, engineer, and medical professional in the state. Our membership is limited in growth, right? So we're supposed to grow 3% a year. So, steady progress, but the basic size isn't going to change. And one of the real challenges is then turning that honorary membership election into service to the state. And so, the other end of our activities is, I'd say currently we have about 10% participation rate. And one of my goals over my tenure here is to get that up to closer to 25%.
Yeah,
Maybe because of the demographics of our state, but about half of our membership are from the national laboratories. Sandia, Los Alamos Air Force Research Lab, White Sands down in southern New Mexico. So we do have university, but we also have a fair amount of government associated. We don't have a ton of industry. We have the Intel and things like that, and we can get a little bit of money from, but they don't become members because something you folks have talked about, what is the value added for them? And it's your university professors and your folks at the national labs that are looking for that kind of collaboration. I don't know, do any of the rest of you have your national labs associated?
We have the Idaho National Lab here in Idaho, but only the one, plus 12 colleges and universities. That there's a trustee on our board from each of the 12 colleges and universities, plus one from the Idaho National Lab. Whether they want to be members or not, they're trustees. We assume they're members. but our basic membership is individuals, mostly from universities, faculty members mostly.
In Washington State, our model is Washington State Academy of Sciences is kind of like Connecticut's, very much like Connecticut's, in that it's modeled after the national academies. And so it's an elected membership of the state's senior scientists and engineers. And we have the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory in our state, and we have a lot of members from there. And in fact, there's some, I don't know all of the details of it, but it's considered to be very prestigious for a member, for a lab member to be elected into the WSS. They work hard on identifying who should be nominated every year.
So we are a membership driven by being associated with particular schools. It's not elected. It's, paying a small fee, and it is almost exclusively institutions with a significant focus on undergraduates. And it's interesting to me, the state went through a budget issue about probably 7 or 8 years ago. And until that point, we actually had a lot of government participation, particularly publishing on our transactions. And then the things really squeezed down with a governor that restricted those areas of, sort of state-sponsored research, particularly in natural resources in the state. And it never really bounced back from that. And so we really have shifted away from this kind of state and school partnership to being, again, predominantly in universities and colleges with a small state focus. The other thing, we're coming up on about 120 years old, and in some ways we have not kept up with the ways that science has changed, and a continuing conversation that we've had. And one thing I would like to include in kind of, or I'm curious if this is an appropriate topic to consider. We have 14 divisions, which is a little bit ridiculous because we have ones that are underpopulated. So we've had conversations about how do we currently have no real home for neuroscience, for example. It didn't exist 120 years ago. We still have a botany and a zoology division. Nobody does that. We have people who figure out how to use those, but and that has held us back in terms of coming up with a more flexible structure for governance. And we are entirely volunteer, and we are well under the $75,000 mark. So, would that be an appropriate kind of focus for a grant? How do we restructure this, these disciplinary foci to get more participation and to streamline the amount of volunteers we need in order to run the organization?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a great approach. I also think other things will inevitably come up in the process. Yeah, and knowing that part of the process is the sending a survey out to members and other folks that are engaged with your academy, as well as doing stakeholder engagement interviews. And you're going to learn, hopefully, in that process, some things that come up in addition to what you already see, which I'm sure will also be something others see and identify. But maybe they look at it differently, which is also a strength of the process. Donna.
That's a really interesting comment, Laura, about the kinds of disciplines that kind of got baked into the cake a long time ago versus what is science now, and could actually be used as a way to attract people because they see the academy actually being represented by more what might be considered more modern science. They could see a place for themselves because they're working in, fill in the blank area that's really super exciting right now.
Yeah, like where does nanotechnology fit into the current categories.
I will say, Laura, that came up in our day and a half together was that we had to rethink, and that wasn't something Rachel brought up, but just spending time together and talking about disciplines and visiting about who submits, that we did have to think about how do we make our different divisions, do we rename them, make them more inclusive, change the description, because we might be missing some people if they don't see themselves in the categories that we have. So
Very interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if you all have seen Amanda's question in the chat, but I wanted to go ahead and call it out because I think it builds on the conversation we're having right now. And she was wondering about any ideas or plans that grantees want to share about plans to build capacity. So, like some actions maybe we talked about at the meeting that have been pulled over into your implementation plan to build capacity in your members, but also just capacity in general.
So I can start, and capacity for us means something different, right? That, as I mentioned, our membership growth rate is fixed by our bylaws. But what is really needed is getting them to then participate in the academy. And so one of the things, and some of this was underway, and so this was one of the topics that both overlapped what we were doing and what came out of strategic planning, was using our technical boards to continue bringing more members into our activities, and then using those to interact with the state government and legislature and executive branch. Our technical boards are set up by, broad subject areas: energy, environment, economic development, right? We're not focused on subject matter expertise, but more on what the customer might be looking for. And so trying to utilize those as a way to attract people into the questions that our customers have, and then fulfilling them. Just a little pitch here, and this should come out in the NAS bulletin or whatever that newsletter is when it comes out. Our December podcast will be on the technical boards. So if you're interested in how we're working to get them going and moving and what they're trying to do, our director of technical boards and our lobbyist were interviewed by our secretary. So that will come out December 29th, and it'll be in the next update so that you guys can get the location of it.
One of the ways I proposed in our meetings, as well as in our strategic planning discussion as well, is what I've been observing is that the faculty are not participating as much as we would like for to. What is happening is, in our meetings, a lot of students are attending the meetings. So, and then they are chaperoned by one faculty. So they all put them into a van, and then there's one faculty coming from some department, and then students are from different departments. So one way we wanted to, we are thinking about, and hopefully it will get implemented, is having, like, for example, some kind of competitions or activities for the faculty and not just for the students, so that there'll be more participation from the faculty as well. And then, so that could give some recognition to them as well, and they can add it to their, for example, promotion and things like that. Another way we have done this already, it's not something new. We try to build capacity is by partnering with other small organizations. Like, for example, we have the Arkansas Space Grant Consortium. So sometimes our annual meetings are held in combination with them. And the advantage of our meetings is, of course, our state is small, and then what we do is we have our meetings every year in a different university. So then the advantage is that if there is another event which is happening in the same university or somewhere nearby, we can collaborate with them, and that way we can increase capacity. So those are a couple of things we have for now.
Yeah, for us, I don't think we figured it out. I like the idea of partnering with other organizations. We did talk about possibly hiring like a part-time remote admin because managing all of that is just a lot for everyone. We have not acted on that, but I think that could be very helpful to set some things up and help keep us all accountable, and on task and manage, especially as we're trying to build a couple new things. But we haven't acted on that yet, so.
Oh, I would have loved to have an administrative assistant help me with the whole process because it was just me and going back and forth with Haley, those stuff. Oh, one other thing I missed is another way we can increase capacity is at even at the local level. So when we had the meeting at our institution, what we did is like our institution usually we have like the annual research forum, which is open to all the students at our university. So so we had that the event in conjunction with them. So the advantage was that then those students they don't have to pay for registration to come to this annual meeting. Their registration was paid by the university. So that was a big plus. So you can capitalize on what is there at your own university as well. And
Yeah, and if others that are not TA grant recipients have ideas or innovations that, you're currently undergoing at your own institutions, please share. Or difficulties. That'll help us all.
I just, being one of the new kids on the block here, I don't want to take too much time asking, fundamental questions, but maybe this is a question for Donna and for Haley. What is the average size of these 50 states academies of science? I mean, that sounds like Connecticut, you got some money and you've got some organization, you've got a CEO, down to where we're all volunteer. Most of you are all volunteer as well. Is there some document you can send me to, or do you want to just generally say this is kind of what we are nationwide?
I'll take that. I'll start the answer to that question, but then I'm going to punt it over to somebody who knows he's going to get the question. My response about what is an academy is that when you've met one, you've met one. Everybody is very different from each other. Believe it or not, Deb, it's each state has evolved to create an organization that either met the needs of the state at the time it was formed or is meeting it now. So that's why the strategic planning process is so needed at the moment, because everything's in a state of change. So there isn't now in terms of range of size of budgets, it ranges from a few $1,000s a year, quite literally, to over $1 million with very few and everything in between. And I'm going to turn it over to Philip, who's our archivist, who knows the history of a lot of these organizations.
I knew that was coming. Yes, everything that Donna said. To the best that we can count, we think that there's about 47 state and regional academies of science in the United States and its territories. I say territories because you can't say one state per academy or one academy per state, because some academies are multiple states. Arizona and Nevada share an academy. Others, Puerto Rico has an academy now that has become active again and joined NAAS. As far as size, it's everything. No two academies are the same, and each one, as Donna said, has kind of grown to serve its needs. One of the academies is so small that it is 2 volunteers that run a state science fair. Other academies like Washington are large organizations. Some are all volunteers, some have professional staffs. There just is no typical academy.
There's even one state that shall remain nameless today, but there's a one state that's creating a brand new academy
Yeah.
right now.
So if you've met one academy, you've met one academy. I did a survey a couple years ago, and I concluded that the only similarities between all the academies is that every academy had people who were dedicated to advancing science in that state. And that was the only commonality across all of them.
I was going to say to build on that a little bit, Philip, I think, it feels intimidating with all these academies being differently structured and coming up against very different challenges at the state level. But I also think that that's power in our network. It enables us to learn different things from each other, that eventually we may run into, in our own state or in neighboring states, that we can then help with, because, I met Jamie in Louisiana and they've been having this challenge. I can then connect her with my contact in Iowa who somehow is having the same challenge in a very different state. And actually, one thing, just to share a little anecdote from my time in Arkansas, I guess, been about a month now. Doesn't feel that long ago. What is time? We were having a little conversation after the meeting, and just hearing from a couple of your board members, Vinay, about their networks, their informal networks, right? They talk with folks in Mississippi and West Virginia and other places to troubleshoot already, and hopefully we can build on that momentum that's already happening and make it more effective. Because I know that there are already leaders out there that care about science. To your point, Philip, that is the commonality, right? We're all hoping that science, engineering, and these areas of learning and expertise are able to contribute to our society, and that just the very simple idea is so powerful.
Yeah, that's the only commonality is that each of those academies has at least one person who is dedicated to advancing science and STEM in that state.
Yeah. So we are about a quarter till when the end of this call is scheduled for. I wanted to see if others have questions. And if not, Donna.
It's not a question. I just want to pick up a few threads here. I wouldn't want any state to think that there is a best way to do this, right? It's really tailored to what your state needs. It's kind of a federalist approach to this, and where there's lots of experiments going on around the country, and NAAS exists as we're moving forward as a way to share and learn from each other about what's going on. That said, we're also in a very important moment in our country where there's an absolute need for states to have capacity to tap into the scientific and technical expertise in the state for whatever purpose makes sense in your states. And so these conversations that can be catalyzed by your academies in whatever form they're in right now is really important. And so there is an opportunity here through these technical assistance grants, but even outside of those, just being part of NAAS, to be talking to your colleagues who are playing some kind of a role in an academy somewhere, to learn from each other, share ideas, and because most states are actually doing some new things because of this new era that we're in. So let's learn from each other. I just had another idea, Hallie. These coaching calls that NAS does, irrespective of whether you have a technical assistance grant, are are really, I think, useful starting point. And if there are specific questions that you want to talk about in those coaching calls, let Hallie know and Rachel, and then they know which states are doing what, right? And if you want to call in an academy that has particular expertise in that area, then we can arrange for that academy to also be in on those coaching calls.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to add on that, Donna, too, this might be a conversation we want to elevate to an academy chat. It might be something where it's like, okay, we have 3 academies that are wanting to have this conversation. Maybe everyone can learn from it, or a large part of our membership. So that's part of why the Academy Chats programming exists as well.
Yeah.
I want to open space too for reflections from the TA grantees. You all opened the session talking about your experience, and I just wanted to see if anything else came up in the conversation that you wanted to share. It's okay if nothing did, if you feel like we've gone through it all, but I wanted to make space for that since it's been a little while since you last shared.
I'll just say that, strategic planning is really important. And, I guess I've always called it planning, but those should be flexible plans, to go to Donna's point. But they're important because they should guide you in what you don't do as well as what you do. And, one of the common themes here, whether you're an all volunteer organization or not, right, is just our capacity to execute on what we say. And so that's an important part of what you want to get out of your strategic plan is being able to prioritize and say no to things.
Yes. Good point, Jeff.
One of the things I liked about, and I'm especially happy that I started this process as well. In our plan and in our meeting as well, we had the president-elect as well as the vice president in the meeting. So the way our academy is set up is like we have like a 4-year term. We start as a vice president, then we have a president-elect, and then the president, and then past president. So I have one more. Like, of course, I'm going to be involved with the organization, but in a major capacity, I'll be involved for 1 more year. But in our meeting, we had the current vice president and the president-elect. So it was really good to have them in that meeting as well, because all this discussion, all the directions we are talking about, so they can be involved right from the start. So that is something, yeah, that was it was really good for us.
And I guess I'll wrap up and say, I think what I said in the beginning is bringing us together was really important. And so we usually do an in-person meeting of the executive committee or our board, and we're all rushing to get there, and we spend 2 hours there, and then we're rushing to get home. And so really forcing us to spend the time together to have the conversations was, I think, super helpful to get to know each other on a personal level. The academy actually paid for everyone's hotel stay that night in Alexandria, which I should have said earlier. So I think that also sort of helped people see the support of the academy, and they didn't have to spend their own money to do that. Time is valuable, we know, but I think we all saw a lot of value in just being able to be together and talk through our ideas. So I think we need to do that more often. That's part of our goal for the coming year too.
Philip, you can go ahead.
Oh, thank you. There was just another answer to the question that I was asked earlier. What are the differences and commonalities between the different state academies? I thought of one more commonality between every state academy. Every state and regional academy that is a member of the NAAS has the right to send students of their choice to the American Junior Academy of Science annual conference. That is another, it's a little different, but it's another commonality that all the state academies have if they join the National Association of Academies of Science. Thank you.
Building on that, and if you're coming, if you're able to come to the AAAS meeting in Phoenix in February, the state academies have a presence there through our American Junior Academy of Sciences delegates, and it's a lot of us will be there. It's a great chance to begin to spend some time with your colleagues at the state level.
Absolutely. And there.
Are you going, Deb? Right next door to you?
A minute.
It's in Phoenix.
Turn it back. There we go. I had not planned to go. We are sending students to it. One of the big programs that we have is our Junior Academy of Science. And so this year, because it is next door to us, Phoenix is about a 6-hour drive from here, that we are planning to do students. And I hadn't thought about going because we never have. In the tradition, we have always just sent students and their mentors. And we, the board, have never gone. So I will consider it now and talk to the board about it and see, because it does sound like there's a lot that we have to learn. I mean, like most of you, I've sat on boards, a lot of them, and I have some technical questions like membership database, what do you use and how do you make it talk to each other and things like that. But that's not part of this meeting. But I'm sure over coffee somewhere we could parse some of that stuff out. So I will talk to the board. I'm getting ready to send a message out to them anyway, talking about our meetings, and I'll see what they think about it. So.
And Deb, I will mention, if you come to the National Association of Academy of Science, American Junior Academy of Science annual conference, that gives you also automatic deluxe membership at the AAAS annual conference. So by registering for the by registering for the NAAS, AJAS, you also automatically are included in the AAAS annual conference. And we get heavily discounted rates from AAAS.
Considering I'm retired, that would be good, because I don't have a university that will pay my fee anymore.
Yeah, this year in Phoenix, the registration fees are $475 for all 3 conferences.
Oh, that's a good price.
Yes.
Nat, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just had a quick question from some people that have probably done this. I did sign up for the AAAS one. That's the only one I think I can meet because we're in session here in Virginia. But I got a hotel, I got that. But when you sign up, I only could sign up for this full day event on Thursday. It was like $50 or something, and it didn't look like AAAS was charging for the other events, but I felt like I was wrong. I don't know if anybody. It's my first time. I've never been to a AAAS one, so maybe somebody can give me some more information about that.
Nat, are you? Yes, I think I can help you. Are you coming to the NAAS and AJAS portions of the meeting, or just the AAAS?
I didn't know about all of them. I'm coming in on Wednesday and I'm leaving Saturday.
Okay. Do you have students who are coming to AJAS?
No.
Okay. So you've not registered for.
He's not registered through us then.
Not registered through this organization. Okay.
No, I'm a member of NAAS, but I haven't registered.
Okay. Then you would then only register for NAAS and then attend and pay whatever NAAS price they offer you, and then would pay for whatever the event is on Thursday. Now, if you did register for AJAS, NAAS events, then for that one price of $475, you would participate in all three conferences.
Okay. I wrote that down. I'm gonna
Well,
check into it some more.
if that's still confusing, contact me directly, Philip Winchell. I'm the archivist, and if you need an address, you can get that through admin. Nas admin will happily connect you to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
then-
I think I just need to know about Friday. The Friday is what I signed up for something on Thursday. I know that. So Friday is
Nat,
the day I need to figure out.
I dropped the link to the registration stuff just to make sure you're on the right page and doing it. And that should be the whole meeting, the registration on that page. The rates are at the bottom too, just to clarify things for you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we have about
And Nat, if you have questions about that, call Phil.
All right.
Thank you.
I say we have about 1 minute left. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us. But I also wanted to let you all know that for the TA grant awardees next year, we'll also have a meeting of the awardees at the National Conference of State Legislatures later in the summer. And so looking forward to having some cohort conversations between awardees. And then other members of NAAS are more than welcome to come to NCSL and meet up with us. And we're looking for more opportunities, to continue this conversation with all of you and others that aren't in the room. Donna, anything else to end us?
Thank you for coming. Thank you for engaging. Look forward to meeting all of you in person.
Yeah. Yep. Enjoy your holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.